Welcome. Trevor from Bookmanager here, and I've got an exciting announcement and a bit of a teaser for you today. It is our brand new, on the cusp of releasing, Webstore Designer. We're talking in the next month or so, everyone's going to get a brand new way to customize their consumer web store. This will replace our old system, and it's a brand new, built from the ground up platform we've been working on for over a year now. It's been a huge amount of work, a labor of love, a lot of ingenuity from our developers, so a huge thank you to them. That team has been fantastic, and we've really come together to create a product that we're really proud of. And this new system should allow you to design a web store, a consumer site that is a lot more creative and flexible. The design itself is drag and drop, as you'll soon see. You'll get real-time feedback. It's a huge leap forward, and we have created something that allows you to get into the detail, but not too much into the weeds. So hopefully you'll be able to create something very unique and unleash your creativity without having to know any code or hire a designer. So I don't want to talk too much about how cool it is and this and that. I'd rather just show you. So today I'm going to build a website on the fly. The site was actually, this concept was mocked up by Mike here, Mike H, one of our developers, our big part in the whole design of the whole new system. So he came up with this idea, just a layout. And so I thought, it's a cool layout. I'll show you how to recreate it, and I won't go too much into the detail of how each thing is made. This isn't meant as an instructional video. That will come later when we release this to the entire group, but I'll just show you how quick, once you get into the swing of it, you can put together, say, a home page or any page on your site. So let's dive in. First off, this is the initial view of the creator, and I'm going to first look at this blank template and say, okay, what do I want to do here? Let's get started with the navigation bar, the menu system, and the footer. Let's start there because, with a blank page, it's always tough to get started. So let's start with the basics. So I'm going to bump over to our menu area here, and I'm going to adjust the top search bar. And let's first off give our top search bar a logo here. So I've already got some files uploaded, but I can do it again. Pretty simple to upload a new logo here. Done. Great. Search logo. Poof. We got that up there. Looks great. Awesome. But maybe a little bit bigger. Maybe I want to jump the size or give it a little more breathing room. So I'm going to give it a little bit of padding here around the search bar. Let's also give it a little bit more padding on the top and bottom here. That's looking a little bit better. Maybe we'll dial it down a bit. And then let's change the overall height of this. So again, it gives a little bit more presence to our search bar. That's looking pretty good here. So the next thing I want to do is change the colors here. I have gone ahead and essentially set up a bunch of color templates or swatches to be used around the site. And that's going to be a big departure from our old system. Instead of styling everything separate from one another, you can go ahead and add a bunch of color swatches. You can add a bunch of fonts to your site, which we'll get to in a second. We can add text presets, buttons, change the overall site text, change how links appear, all that good stuff. You specify in advance, and that way you can just be choosing from a limited color palette or a limited palette of text presets. This will allow you to keep everything consistent, and if you change, say, a branding, you change a color, we were using this gold color for a while, but now we're changing it to this. Any element on your site that was tagged with that color would be updated. So this allows you to play around with branding and different styling without having to go back and find every single thing on your site that was styled or tagged with that color or with that type of text. You update it in one area and it changes it everywhere else. So I've gone ahead and added a bunch of colors for this example. I could easily add a new one just by clicking the new button and using color picker, that sort of thing. But already I'm getting into showing you how to use this, which I shouldn't. I'm just going to be blasting through how to, what it's going to look like when you know what you're doing. So back to editing the top search bar, I'm going to change the default color to a kind of a lighter, a dark gray. So it's not quite black, but a dark gray. I'm going with a gold, black, and silver theme for this little mock-up here. And then the text color, I'm going to do like a light silver, so not quite white, but it's more of a silver. And then when we hover over things, I'm going to make things look a little gold. I also want to hide the drop shadow that normally appears under this bar here. It's very subtle in this view, but it's more noticeable on the live site. So I just uncheck that, click Save Changes, and boof, I've got a new search bar layout up top. I'm going to style now the navigation bar, the menu bar here. So click on the edit button there. Right now we're using the default font on the site, but I'll show you in a second how we can change the font used everywhere. So right now we're just using the default, and if I change up the overall font on the site, this will get updated too. I can go back and override this if I want something different. But I'm going to change the text color here. So the text color in this case, I'm going to do a light silver. The background color, I'm going to do a dark gray. So it's not as dark as the gray above, but it's a different shade I wanted. And then when I select text, I want that to be that light gold. And then the background, I want it to be dark gray as well. So let's save that change. I can, do a few more layout options here, but really it's fairly simple and quick to set that up. So we've got a top navigation and menu system set up. Let's tackle our footer. So I'm going to edit the footer over here. And once again, let's change the color to the darkest gray, text color, silver, link button color, light gold. When you hover it, let's do a dark gold I set up. And then in this case, let's bring this in a little bit, 900 or so pixels. That looks a little bit better. I also want to show our new terms and conditions at the bottom here. We'll show the default contact and us page. Save that. Great. Okay, so we've got the bare bones of our site. We've got a header and a footer, and now we need to make some content. So I'm on my home page here. I'm going to drop over to the content tab here. Text and images, I'm going to expand this section of components. There's a number of components that do a bunch of different things, lots to explore and play around with. It's better just to experiment with this than me blab on what each one does. So I'm just going to drop in one, and one of the new components that we're excited about is called text over parallax. It's basically allowing you to put text over top of a parallax image. And what is parallax? Well, it's easier to show you than explain it. So I'll just edit into this new content that I've dropped in place, and let's give it a name. We'll call it main banner. Why not? We'll set the visibility. We can keep it in draft. It doesn't really matter. We're not going to schedule a start and expiry date. And I want to make this 100% width of the screen. I don't want to limit this one. I want it to be the full width here. And let's give it a height of, say, 500. Don't want it that tall. And I'm going to add an image. So I'm going to select from here, and let's upload a new file. Select a file. This is my parallax example, just some stock photography I've got in use here. And poof, there we go. We've got an image. And you can sort of see what's going on here. It'll be a little more obvious in a second once I save this, what a parallaxed image does. But we've got an image, and now we've got some text on our screen here. We can essentially adjust the amount that this text takes up of the overall container. So I want to make it 50% of this overall thing. I want to move it to the left here. I want to align my text to the left as well, and add some padding to my text. I can bring it in a little bit, but 10 is probably good, and the upper and lower padding will probably be 10 is fine as well. We'll add a little bit of margin to the left as well, so 15 pixels here looks good. Now into the headline presets. This is again where I talked about the text or the various presets, but we have a bunch of text presets. So this is where I can go ahead and select one of the pre-made presets I've got, and I'm going to select headline, large, and light. Cool. So I've got something there, and in this case, I can at this point type in some text, whatever I want here. So I don't know, unleash curiosity is what Mike had set up here for our sample. That looks good. Something generic and to the point. And then the paragraph text down here, I can also select a preset there. So I've got a few. I've got and I've got a paragraph light background. Okay, so it's a little dark. I designed this particular preset for a light background, so we can fix this in a second. So right now, we'll just deal with it as it is, but we can correct this, and you'll see again the power of these presets. So I've got lorem ipsum text in here, just some placeholder text. Let's edit the text. I'm going to throw in some stuff that I've, again, just some basic copy that we've thrown in here. Looks good. And then let's go down and add a button as well. So I'm going to add a staff picks button below this. So staff picks. And once again, I can choose a button preset that I've styled. So I've created a 3 for light backgrounds, for dark backgrounds, and for lists. Well, this is a dark background, so I'll click on that one. And ooh, look at that button, looking nice. So I've styled that button. I'll show you a little bit about that in a second. But either way, I've got now a nice staff picks button there. And I can direct this to a particular URL. I don't need to in this demo. I can also adjust how this fills the container and a few other things, but otherwise this is looking pretty good so far. So I'm going to save these changes and looking good. But again, the text is a little bit dark, and honestly, the headline font, I can do something a little better, because right now we're just using the default font built into the system. So I'd like to update both of these things. So the first thing I'll do is get this text going here. So if I go over to the Styles tab, and I'm going to text presets, I have a paragraph light background. Well, I like this text. I like the look of it, but it just needs to be lighter. So instead of creating a brand new preset from scratch and setting everything, I can just use this duplicate button to duplicate this preset, which I'm using already. So I've made a duplicate, and now I can rename it, and I'll call it, dark background. Probably be a good idea. Dark. Oops, my keyboard not working? What is going on here? There it goes. Dark background. Awesome. So I've got a new one saved, and I have to just edit into this content block again and just reselect the new preset I've made. So light background, we're going to go down to dark background. There should be no visual change because we haven't changed this yet. I'm back in the text presets, going to expand this. I get all these options for the text, so I can change the font, so I can make this bold if I want. Don't need it bold. I'll keep it as kind of the regular. I can change the size of it, make it bigger or smaller. I get this real-time feedback. But really all I'm doing here is wanting to change the color, and I'm going to change this to my light silver, and that's looking a lot better. Very nice. Okay, simple as that. Save those changes. That preset is now updated. If this was in use in a dozen other places on my site, it would now be updated. Sweet. Now, as I said, I wanted to change up the Unleash Curiosity, the font used there, the headline font. Wanted to give something a little different. And under the Fonts tab, this is where we specify. We've got our preloaded font here, but we can add our own web safe font if you've got the file, or we can hook in a Google font really easily. So I'm going to go click on Google Fonts, and what it's looking for is the @import code. It's actually quite simple to get this. I'm going to bump over to Google Fonts. I've got a font in mind. It's called Hedvig Serif. Perfect. And here I'm going to choose Get Font. Great. Here it is. I'm going to get embed code. I'm going to choose the @import option, copy this code here, throw it up here. I'm going to call it Hedvig headline. Sure. Cool. Upload font. Done. So now it is added to my list of available fonts. I can now go to my text presets here, choose headline large light, which is the one I tagged this one with, and then I'm going to choose from my drop down Hedvig headline. There we go, looking nice, cool. I can once again, use these options to change its size if I want, change the letter spacing. I can adjust a ton of different parameters here. We can get pretty wacky with this. Like I can add a border to the left. Let's make it light gold. Let's make it a little fat. Let's add some rounded corners to it. Add some padding to the left and right. Like you can see, you can get pretty creative with what you want to do with this editor here. So I'm really excited to see what everyone comes up with. I'm sure everyone's going to, there's going to be plenty of stores who do some stuff we never anticipated. And that's the most, what I'm most excited about with this whole thing is seeing, how people take our tool and do things we didn't even know was possible. So I'm going to save that changes to this preset. It's looking pretty great. So this first little block of content looking done, looking ready. I'm going to make sure my other headlines are using this new font now too. So Hedvig, there we go. Save changes. Let's look down. I'll keep that one. It's a small headline. It'll make more sense in a second. But that's been updated and done. And now that I've added a new font to use on my site, I can also swap that out for my default font elsewhere on the site. So I can go into each individual area and change that up, or I can just go down to site text and choose Hedvig. And then now it is updated in my footer and my header and the login button. It's all restyled using that. Really simple to do that. One caveat to this whole thing is that that's not going to change the font used in the cart and checkout process or in the browse. Those are very sensitive areas that if you upload the wrong font, maybe it doesn't have a full character set or it's got strange, a non-standard spacing to it, it could very well break the checkout experience for your customers. So we will be allowing you to change that at some point. Just wait for this initial release. We're going to save users from themselves and essentially fix those fonts at the one we know is going to work really well for checking out. But everything else on your site can be changed with this site text. Okay, so I've got a bit of content styled up, and right now I'm kind of in my editor view, but if I want to preview this more accurately to how it would look like in the real world, I'm going to click the preview button, and there you get a much better idea. And you can now see what this parallax kind of style image does is as I scroll, the image scrolls at a different rate in the background, so it gives a bit of perspective. It's a nice little effect. I can also in this preview mode change the view. So now we're looking at a tablet mode, and now I'm looking at a phone. Everything kind of resizes responsively and looks really nice. So we don't have to design for each mode separately. It's looking pretty good. Okay, let's move on and let's keep going. So I've got a bit of content here. Let's add some more content. I'm going to first add a blank space. I always put some space between my content. You can adjust the blank space's height, so I can bump it up a little bit. Oh, let's maybe make it 40 pixels. It's a very subtle difference, but there you go. Cool. And then let's drop in our next most kind of sought after and also probably our most complicated text component is the side-by-side text and image. So I'll throw this in here. This one has a ton of options, but it allows you to do some pretty creative and cool stuff. So let's dive in. I'm going to edit into this. And with this, we'll give it a name. So we'll call it Our Story. It's going to be a little feature about our bookstore's, presence, our history, and what we do. So, okay, so let's see here. I've got a width I can set for this container, so I can make it bigger or smaller. I want to keep it kind of constrained to this central container, but I can open it up, make it the full width, but I'm just going to constrain it. And then we choose a split between the text and the image. So in this case, I actually want to do quite a bit of featuring on the text and only a small image. So I'm dragging that over. I'm going to flip this around. I want the image on the left here. Sounds good. I want the text or the alignment of this whole thing. Now this would only matter if you brought this down. You could then move this whole thing over left or right, but I'm going to keep it centered. Great. So this is looking good so far. The background color I want to use on this whole thing is this background off white, which I'm kind of setting for everything on the site here. Don't really need any padding around this at this point in time. I prefer to handle that with some blank spaces in the top and bottom. Let's add an image to show you kind of more what this thing is going to do. So I've already uploaded something, Mosaic Book feature. So let's add that in here. Oops. Actually, I think that's the wrong. No, that should work. Yeah. And then I'm going to set the view for this to initial, container height 350. Looking good so far. Let's get, I can set the alignment of this image if I want, but I want it nice and centered. Let's adjust how much of this text portion of the container the text can occupy. So I'm going to drag this over to basically 100% or, pretty much there. Let's add some padding to that text. Actually, we're going to add some padding to the whole thing. It's a good idea to always add padding to things. So let's throw in 20 there. That'll bring it in a bit. Great. And then in this case, let us align this text a little bit. I like the left alignment. It's looking good there. And yeah, that's pretty good so far. Let's get some styling. We can dial this in a little bit more. The headline text preset, I'm going to use my headline medium over it's dark text and it's medium. So that was the name I gave it. Very creative. And then we can call this Our Story. Cool. The paragraph preset, this is where I can now use the paragraph over a light background, looking good. And I've got some text to copy into here. So we have a little bit of a visual. So within paragraph text, you can do things like, oh, I can highlight this portion of text, bold it, change the color of it. Okay, I'm going to change that to a dark gold. Maybe I want to bold Mosaic Books or make that into a hyperlink, that sort of thing. So whatever you want to do, you can have some basic styling and control over your text there. Now you're meant to use your presets to do most of your styling, but you can do some small overriding changes here to style it up. So cool, that's looking pretty good so far. Let's also add a button. We can do, read more. Awesome. And then once again, I've got a button here for light backgrounds, looking good. Awesome. And then again, you'd put in the URL where that button would be going to. So that's looking pretty nice so far here. So I can go save changes to that whole block and throw some blank space below it. Maybe adjust that one up a little bit more, 40. Great. So I've got now, a quick and easy little bit of text. Let's go to the preview mode. That's looking good. Once again, if I go to the small screen, everything is breaking nicely, and you don't have to worry about controlling how everything looks. There's lots of tricks to making this look right. So just if you're playing with this side by side and you're finding, the text or image is being cut off or moved, it's not aligned right. There's tons of settings to this where you can make it look wacky, but we're again keeping it open so you can get creative and make some pretty interesting layouts. So I'm just going pretty basic today, but there you go, get a good idea. Okay, back to the editor. We've added 2 bits of text. That's all cool, but what about the books? Let's maybe dive into the featuring some titles, some books, what your bookstore is actually about. So let's drop in a title list. So I'm going to go to the content tab here, close the text and images, go to product lists and features. Let's throw in a traditional product slider. You'll see from the list, there's product slider, product grid, and a single title feature. So the product grid is a new one. You can set up a grid instead of a slider. So you could do like a 5x5 grid of titles. You can do the same thing with just generic images too, or just images. They don't have to be particular products. So image grid is another option as well. But product product slider is what we're going to do right now. But I also want to attach to this a headline. So I'm going to put a headline above this as well. And so let's start with that, edit into the headline here. And in this case, I just want a headline. I don't want any paragraph text. So I'm going to immediately blank out the paragraph text. Done. Just have a headline. Let's do a preset of small gold. And then let's give this whole thing a background color. Let's do the darkest gray, looking good. Let's make this the full width of our site, looking good there. And then of course we need to give it, a title, new and upcoming. Sweet, we're gonna do a new and upcoming list here. I can also adjust the padding around this, make this thing look a little bit fatter, give it a little more presence here. Pretty simple here. I don't need to adjust really anything else. So just give it a name, new and upcoming. Great. So I've got a header for my list. Now let's edit the list itself. But wait, we need some titles for this list. And this is not done on this site. We use the Biz site to actually come up with the curated lists or specify the dynamic preset. So you can have lists that are, again, just a definite set of ISBNs or UPCs or whatever product codes, or you can set up browse filter presets to then dynamically change the titles as things change. As new titles are received in your store, as you sell out of things, as new releases are released, as new criteria is met with your browse filter preset, those titles will update. So it's a great way to keep your site up to date without you having to manually do it. You could do this on the old site, but we've improved it quite a bit, and there's a lot more filters and control with this. So I'm going to jump over to the Biz site here. And I'm just going to set up a really quick one that's going to focus on titles that have just released and the titles that are releasing this week and that are releasing next week as well. So that should be good. So those are my filters. And you could also tag that with a stock filter, like what's on stock or what's on order. In this case, I'm just leaving it wide open, keeping it simple. I'm I'm going to save this preset here, call it new and upcoming. Great. Save. Perfect. Got a new preset. Then I'm going to bump over to my lists, create a new list, list from filter preset, new and upcoming, spelled right. Great. Select it from my filter preset, new and upcoming, save that. Cool. I now have a list ready to go. So back in the Webstore Designer, I'm going to edit into this product slider here. I'm going to once again name it new and upcoming titles. And always be organized. Give your content blocks names. Trust me, when you get like a year into using this thing and you have like 100 different content blocks everywhere and you're trying to clean stuff up or organize things, you're going to kick yourself if everything's named like test or blah, just throwing in random text here. You're going to be kicking yourself, your past self. So in here, this container, I want to set it 100%. I want it to be a nice wide container here. The list I want to use is that new and upcoming. So it's all your lists on your site are available to select from or search from. So there we go. We got a preview right off the bat of the titles. I also want to show the title and the author. So a new little feature here, which is quite nice. And then when for the title, the preset we're going to use for that is gold show title. I've styled one. And then the author preset, I'm going to do silver show author. Looking good. The background color, I'm going to use that darkest gray. It's going to all come together. And then I can set padding and gap for this. And maybe what I'll do first is adjust the style or the size, of the images. So I want large images. And I think I want a little more gap between each title here. That's probably too much. Let's dial this in and let's get the sides in a little bit. There we go. That'll probably look a little bit better once I get that in. Great. This will look a little bit better on the render here in a second, but those are pretty big spaces. Cool. Okay. Looking good. The other thing we can adjust here is actually the button. We've got the next or previous button here, and I've created a button for that. So boop, I've created my own little button. It's got actually a transparency color. So part of our new color picker is you can add transparent colors, meaning they're kind of see-through. You can see a little bit of the title behind it, but when I hover it, it gets solid. So just a nice little effect. I also choose how many, the maximum number of titles I want before the customer has to click like a see more or view all button. But either way, this is looking pretty good. So I'm going to save those changes. It's rendered a little bit better now. It's figured out the spacing better. And let's just click on preview and have a look. So now as I'm scrolling, I've got a nice new and upcoming section with a new carousel slider, big images. The title and the author is featured below it just in case, it's hard to see on the title itself. And there you go. It's quite nice. I need to fix up actually my link though, because it looks like I can barely see the view all products link. And that is again where you can style various links on my site. So if I go to the styles tab here, link styles, we'll do link one here. Actually, this link one is so far formatted for a light background. So let's duplicate this and we'll call this one for dark BG. Great. I just name it kind of where I'm going to use these things. So the color initially with this will be silver, and then the style will be bold. And then when you hover over this link, the color will change from silver to, we'll do a light gold, and again, bold, and let's underline it as well. So I'll save all those changes. Now if I go back, edit this list, go down here, link style for dark background. Now what I get is this. Let's preview it, view all products, and when I hover it, you get it turns to gold and it underlines. Some very basic stuff, but it's just nice to be able to control that and specify it. Okay, so we've got a list, we've got some text content, that's looking really, really good. There's so many more content components I can show you. We can use components in creative ways. Like I can add, say, 3 blank space blocks here. 1, 2, 3. And maybe what I'll do with the middle one is I will style this as with a background color of, say, light gold, make it only 1 pixel tall. and then constrain it to the container. We'll save that. And now what I've effectively made is like a little gold line that will break up, the next content block, if I wanted to give it some breathing room or something, stylistic flair. But you could do some neat stuff just by kind of thinking outside of the box here. I can also do things like, okay, I've created, this content block, our story here. I want to make something very similar, maybe down the page, maybe the next one. I want to do something, again, very, very similar, just change up the image and the text and maybe swap it. I can click a duplicate button here. I've duplicated this one. I'm going to click and drag it down to the bottom here and just get it down here. I actually have to get it closer there. There we go. It takes a little bit sometimes with this thing to get with the bigger blocks here. There we go. Okay, so our story, moving it all the way to the bottom here. Please wait. And with this, I can now edit this cloned version, and I can flip it here and swap out the image. Okay, I want a different image now on this side. I'll do this one here, looking good. Upload, great. Poof, and we'll set this to cover mode, and we would change maybe the height of this whole container, and the width, all this sort of stuff you can control in this little format. So lots of, and again, I don't need to change up the text here necessarily, but I can do some, creative stuff to, really dial it into the way I want. Okay, so totally not refined at all, but you can see you can make some content stuff and keep it consistent pretty easily and quickly. So along with our text and images and product lists and features, we've also got things like events, like I can drop in my event calendar. Okay, I want to throw that on the homepage, maybe below here. Once again, I could use this to duplicate my whole, line spacer thing. Okay, add a, line there and some, blank space around that. Blank space. And now I've got myself, again, a little line and my event calendar going here. So looks good. I'd probably maybe make that blank space a little bit bigger than I've done that. I can edit that and, bump it up, maybe double it sort of thing. So lots of fun to play around with all these controls. You have a lot more control over your event calendar, how it renders, lots of options for styling the text and the listings. My test site right now doesn't have any events, but normally it would show you a preview of those events, so you could dial in the text and how, the headline and paragraph portion of it is styled. Lots of options to control. But as you can see, in a nutshell, I've put together a homepage pretty quickly. It looks pretty fresh and different from our old site, at least in terms of what you can customize and how you can get creative. We're going to be adding a lot more components too, I'm sure we will, as users play through our system and find layouts that maybe our current components can't achieve. So this is the idea with this new system. It's so much easier to add new components and new layout options instead of you having to use custom HTML or CSS, which we're basically trying to avoid at all costs at this point. If you try to actually even use custom HTML or CSS, you get a big warning message about like, don't do it, talk to us first instead. We'll try to add it. So anyway, you've got an events section for your content components. We've got buttons you can drop in, pop-up notices. Let's actually do that. Right now we're dropping all of our content on the selected page, but I can do a global banner. Say we're doing some free shipping this month. So I could always go to pop-ups and notices, do an above search bar notice, edit into this. We'll go free ship as the content name. We could schedule a start and stop date for that, but I'll just leave it for now. Let's edit the text here and go like, free shipping over $150, Yahoo. Whatever we want to do there. We can change the background color. Let's make it, gold, and then let's change actually the text color. In this case, we can style it this way too, to the darkest gray, looking good, and even, bump the size up. But either way, make this a little bit bigger. That's fine. And then make this into a link or whatever you want. But there we go. We've got an above search bar notice. And so right now it just renders here. This is where you build all this content, including say like if you wanted to have a pop-up, you'd bring that here. But when we actually preview the site, now you can see that above search bar notice is in fact above the search bar, and pretty nice. It's pretty standard stuff on a site to see. So looking good there. So I'll switch back to the selected page And here we are. So that is it. That's it in a nutshell. It is a powerful tool. We've got some integration with third-party widgets too. So right off the bat, we've got MailChimp. If you want to add a MailChimp sign-up form, pretty easy to do. We'll be, of course, looking for all the other widgets we need to add. Again, we'll be adding widgets that will probably be used and useful to a good chunk of our users. So we won't be tackling widgets, third-party code that is very specific. Probably is not going to be used by others, but we want to try to add as many built-in widgets as possible so you don't have to, say, struggle with the MailChimp embed code on your own. And then we can also make sure it's styled nice, it works responsively, and we can control all the visual layout for it. So again, let us know as you are using this tool. All right, in classic me fashion, I am rambling, so I'm just going to wrap it up and say thank you for your patience and waiting for our new system, and thank you for watching the video here. We're so again very excited to release this. We'll be doing a big email out probably in February when everyone can start accessing it, and then we'll be working with stores on transitioning their existing content over to the new system. The whole new system doesn't require you to rebuild your entire site as soon as you turn it on. You can rebuild each page at a time. You can preview it, get it all ready, and then you can activate one page at a time and swap in the new design. So again, there's no real time limit to this. You can take your time and keep using the old system. So with all that said, thanks again, and we'll see you soon with a full access to this. And have fun. Hope you guys are having a good winter, and we'll see you on the other side.